Siyesh.
But I'm rolling already.
Sekuhlangenwe wathi uyakuhlanganisa chief.
Yes, sir. Sorry for that.
We're rolling?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please, if you don't mind rehashing what you were saying about Jesus Christ.
I was saying nothing. I was saying uthi ngiyamthanda uJesu. Oh Jesu. I wasn't saying nothing about Jesus.
You said that
I never said that.
you were referencing Richard Dawkins, the most aggressive atheist on planet Earth.
Oh, Benjamin Netanyahu ubalalele.
Do you know Richard Dawkins has a career because of Christianity? He should be thankful.
He should be number one fan
He'd be nowhere if it wasn't for Christianity, because he's the number one hater, basically.
of JC.
Just of Christianity as a
Yeah,
whole. Like his
man.
whole life, like his
been
whole
around.
career has been around hating on Christianity.
Oh, shame.
What did Richard Dawkins say
No,
about sinning?
I can't remember what he said. What did he say? But
I can remind you because you said it here to us. So you don't have conviction in what you say off camera.
No, what Richard Dawkins said, not what I'm saying. He said, Uguti, you must remember to sin, because if you don't sin, then Jesus died for nothing. That's what he said. That's not what I'm saying.
I hear you. You disagree with him.
Huh?
You disagree with him?
No, according to scripture, Jesus died for our sins.
Okay.
So people were sinning and then Jesus died for
Okay.
that. Yeah, bo. So that's what Richard Dawkins is saying. If you don't sin, then
You agree-
Jesus
you
died
agree
for
with him?
nothing. I beg your pardon?
Do you agree with him?
With Jesus dying for our sins.
With what Richard Dawkins said?
About that Jesus died for
That
sins.
you have to sin, otherwise he died for nothing.
Do you know what Utebza said? Utebza,
This is you snitching on other people instead of on
Utebza
yourself.
said, Jesus died.
What did I say?
No, Jesus died in the year 30, let's say. So he only died for those sins up until that time. So Utebza, from year
Utebza is a
31,
biblical scholar.
yeah, he's a theologist. From the year 31,
He's definitely the opposite of a theologist.
from the year 31 till now, Tina, we're all burning in hell because there's no one that's died for our sins.
So he must come back.
So when Jesus comes back around 2, then he's going to wipe all our sins. So according to Tebza, fasine into yangempela. Ukusina not lokho wabazulu, but ukusina lokhu okwenza wabelungu, so that Jesus can die for a real reason.
Are you guys not scared
According
of hell?
to Tebza,
Are you guys not scared of hell?
not according to me.
No, I'm not scared of hell. Hell is fine.
How? Ha.
Have you seen where we live, bro? Like
Now,
how
Khumutso.
are you scared of hell when you're living what you're living through? Like,
My life is amazing.
what are you talking about?
Uzovuka Gaza when.
But the thing
Gaza.
about hell is the whole idea that it's not like you're gonna die again. It's a space where you're new. That's it. But you are there forever. Like there's no.
But you don't know that.
I could always speak about what you've heard.
Have you had a toothache before?
Yeah, once.
And it's
Imagine
bad.
that forever.
But no one said hell is that.
But they say it's burning and suffering for eternity.
Forever. And suffering.
The hell that I'm
We are
imagining.
Pixar and Alok.
The hell that I'm imagining, man, Ziyakhala, like
It's a party.
nice, man.
Groova, the girls are twerking. Bashai Habli.
Look, man, imagine if hell was like Summit.
Oh gosh.
Summit is hell. Njengoba manje does with my summit ezulwini.
Some zuzu, so me some zuzu.
Anyway, sorry, Khumutso.
No, I was just gonna say his idea of hell is so dope because his idea of hell is basically all of man's vices just squashed into one warehouse. Like
Forever.
prostitution, stripping, drinking, music, yeah.
I mean, these top 3. What else do you need? Music,
Oh.
drinking,
Yeah.
woman. As as like
That's a vice. That's hell. That's suffering.
That's suffering.
That's what they threaten you with.
That's
They-
suffering.
They say behave. Otherwise, uzophuza, ubone osisi,
and music
and ugroove kakhulu.
all in one space.
So behave. Otherwise,
the suffering yakho
I
le.
mean, these are the 3 things. When a man falls, it's either one of these 3 things have happened.
how is he falling?
I'm
if
saying
he's having a
general.
good time.
I'm just saying general in life. These 3 things of it are what define Umchita when he's at his happiest.
Alcohol, substances, music. Why are you adding music as a third one? I don't think music has led to a downfall of anyone.
Music is a vice. I think you must understand in Islam, you're not allowed to listen to music.
No.
They see it as a
we,
vice.
We
What do
can't
you mean?
speak about the same thing. I think you guys are speaking about groover.
No, I'm speaking about music.
Music in isolation. No, I
Not,
hear
not,
what you're
not
saying about
necessarily in
Islam.
isolation. Not necessarily in isolation. All of it. Whether it's in isolation, whether it's groove, whether it's what. Just like khona khona umculo.
Amaslama waculo noma ithandaza.
ayiculela Jesu wethu njalo ngolesihlanu nansi ngonyama
Those are
kodwa
prayers,
abayisho
right?
Miss Arabic.
Isn't that a form of music?
Those are prayers,
Yeah.
though.
Isn't it a form of music? Is my
Oh, yeah,
question.
sure, but I think they consider it more worship than music. You know what I mean? It's not music for the sake of grooving. It's audio for the sake of communicating with God. You know, these are two different things.
So I guess they
May I
see
disagree with you
music
guys
is
on the music?
It's only a form. Music can only be used as prayer to communicate. Yeah, but that's how they see it. And you use it for anything else, then it's a sin. Like much like having sex. Some people see sex just for procreation. The moment you're like,
You
hey, let's
see it? Yes.
let's have
How
anal
do you see
doggy.
it?
What? Uba.
How do you see it?
I don't have sex. I'm yini labantu laba bangana sex.
You tell
Angeke sazi ngoba ngithi you claim to be that. So
Uba.
sozwa ngawe.
I'm in kona labantu asexual.
pansexual.
Pansexual.
Homosexual.
We homosexual when
Pansexual. Isn't that a coincidence?
What's
pansexual?
yini
It's
pansexual.
pansexual.
When?
I don't know. You
You mean, huh?
tell us.
Mara sexual.
Uthe khumutsu yena udlayeli bafana.
Is this breaking news on two things? Thank you, by the way, Konvo, for bringing that up today to our attention. There's a new word
can-
on the blog.
We can actually shut down this episode. I think we're in hell right now.
We're in hell, gentlemen. And the only way out is if you claw with your fingernails.
I met two guys at the airport last week.
Yeah? No, but then bafana.
Abadala pirates, basha, talk to you. These two niggas, they come to me. Like, you know, we love the chats before like the action. Like before when you go like format.
Are they paying members?
Welcome.
Have they ever donated money here?
Ask.
They just fucking farting out of their mouth.
We don't take opinions of those.
Sorry,
who
Debza,
don't
please
know.
carry on. That's
No,
it.
just say-
I'll vent after you say your piece.
It was a nice thing. It was a nice thing that they're like, if those chats before, they're nice. Because it's like,
Those chats.
that's why you guys are just normal. Because he says, once you say, welcome to, it's like just something changes in the room. But anyway, I was just putting it out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
You know how
man,
aggressive
man.
people get in wanting to criticize the work we do as if they fucking donate 5 rand here? Do you know how much that pisses me off considering how much work we actually put in here? But you must never eat fusak. You can go
Yeah,
fuck
abantu
yourself with that
love telling
criticism.
you what you're doing wrong, hey.
Ne?
They love it.
Abakwazi
They
ukuyitshela
get-
bona why they
they get a
broke.
kick.
Why are they broke and suffering? They can't tell you that.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry.
That went deep.
Islam and music.
That went
This
deep.
is from Wikipedia.
What does Elon Musk call it?
Wikipedia. To Elon Musk, ufuna uyithenga ibiza nge-Wikipedia. Islam and music. The relationship between Islam and music is complex and has long been debated. Some Muslims believe that the Quran and Sunnah prohibit music, instruments, and singing. However, others believe that some forms of music are permissible. Even so, music flourished in the Islamic world, although it was often confined to palaces and private homes to avoid censure. In many parts of the Muslim world, devotional, religious music and secular music is well developed and popular. In recent decades, the advent of a whole new generation of Muslim musicians who try to blend their work and faith has given the issue extra significance. Historically, Islamic art and music flourished during the Islamic Golden Age, yet it continued to flourish until the 19th century in the Ottoman, Safavi, and Mughal empires. Ottoman music in particular developed into a diverse form of art music. It influenced Western composers of the classical period. Islamic music is also credited with influencing European and Western music. For example, French musicologist Baron Rodolphe de Allenger, in his assessment of the Abbasid Caliphate in Islamic history, credits Abu Nasir Muhammad al-Farabi's Kitabu, which is the great book of music, with his influence.
Yeah. I think even with a lot of the Christians, the problem is the circular music and how it
Secular.
shapes.
It's not circular. It's secular.
It's what?
S-E-C.
S
Secular.
S-E
Not circular in the ring.
in the ring.
No, it's not that.
It's sec.
Not vulisekeli.
It's fully sec.
It's secular.
Secular. I think the problem with secular
Lil Nas X.
is that because it does shape you.
Hey, Lil Nas X makes garbage.
If
man.
we
Fuck's
listening,
sake.
if we're listening to music that is about appreciating women and loving black women and black families, and then all of a sudden to the window, to the wall, that will shape,
So the
especially
sweat, You must sing the whole song. People don't know it. It's Lil Jon.
Context.
Context.
You need to provide context.
No, I can't do that.
As urban poet Lil Jon would say, to the windows, to the wall, till the sweat drops off my, and he'd speak about testicles in a derogatory manner. So they're not speaking about Lil Jon.
But like,
And skeet.
yeah, but like R. Kelly, again, like
The greatest R&B. Oh,
Robert Kelly.
Oh,
So
the R&B.
the R. Because if we grew up listening to, let's say, gospel where they're celebrating Ujesu or they singing positive about the black family, next thing it is hoes and bitches and, I'll fuck a nigga's bitch. That if you're young especially, it does change your mindset.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden now we're all about getting that money, getting that paper.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is to the music we listen to.
So again, to what Utebs was saying, the three things: women, substances, alcohol, and music. I mean, in heaven, they probably worshiping, praise and worship and singing. So I wouldn't put music there. I think there's a type of music you're speaking to,
Probably.
which is a problem. And also where you're listening to that music and what it influences you to do.
Circular or secular.
Circuit.
Circuit.
Anyways, welcome back, bro.
Second music.
I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm
How
okay.
you doing?
Our family is going through some stuff, which is not to be discussed on this platform, but it's stuff that has been bugging my mind for a while.
Wafaka zomndeni la.
Hey, where are the mic? Hey, switch off the mic.
Wafaka zomndeni.
Maybe, yeah, let's start there. We don't have to go into detail, man. But,
Yeah.
there are so many things we haven't been trained and workshopped on, which blows my mind. I mean, I'm 38.
Damn.
And the epiphanies I've had growing up of things that I'm discovering. And then I realize these things have been here for hundreds, thousands of years, and no one is talking about it.
When are you
no
gonna
one is
say?
interrogating.
Are you gonna say?
Ilobolo
You're
and
gonna
those
say you're
things.
39 in 3 weeks time?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, so right now
we're
like
filming this
38.
on the 18th of February. So it's going to probably drop in a couple of weeks.
So you'll be
maybe
39.
my birthday will have passed.
So you'll be 39. So tell her I'm 39.
No. I live in the present, not the
Oh,
future.
okay.
If you live in the future or the past, you're
Okay.
never going
So
to be happy.
you're 38 and 11 months.
I'm 38 today, yeah.
And 11 months.
I'm saying the epiphanies have blown my mind. So
And 11 months.
we were obviously disrupted by, we argue colonialism, maybe religion, and we've just been taken away from all the different ways that we've lived. And I don't understand whose responsibility it is or it's supposed to be, this training. And I wonder if you and I as parents are also failing our kids,
Yeah.
where they're going to have epiphanies in their 20s. Oh, damn, why didn't Ubaba tell me this? And you're like,
Of course they're gonna have that.
we weren't trained on, number one of the big epiphanies I had was when I got to varsity. I didn't know that you lose friends. I really thought your friends are forever. Calvin Neft.
Oh my gosh, best mate.
Ulethu, Big Boy, Tusuko Madlalo, Blessing Villa. I was like, that's forever, bro.
Yeah. We're gonna stay just as close, if not get closer.
So I didn't know that friendships end.
Yeah.
That was a bit painful. And then I didn't know that people could hate you just for existing. I thought you needed to do something bad. And there were
To
people that
them,
just,
you need to do something bad to them.
to them or to other
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But people would just be like, Jamie Foxx, look at that motherfucker out there looking good. Hey, what up, Jamie? Fuck you, man. Don't be looking at my girl either. Your girl ain't with you. She with me in spirit. You're just hating on me because I'm working out, because I
Yeah.
look good.
Yeah.
Because girls are like, oh my gosh, what a nice guy. Like, fuck him.
Yes.
I'm like, really? You hate me
Yeah.
because...
Because I exist.
So yeah, our family, we're at a point where me, you, my sister, maybe Umamsi, but I know this would have hurt her the most because she's our mom. Siyakhula.
Yeah.
And when khula umuntu nomuntu uba nomndeni wakhe.
Yeah.
And also nomndeni wakho, it means like your
Priorities.
fathers, Uzwelakhe, no Petros, no Simon, they can't hang.
Yeah.
They can't be watching football every week and they living. And I think we're at that point now, and no one ever prepped me for that. And in my head, I'm constantly trying to figure out what that means. Does it mean I check up on you regularly? Does it mean I don't? Does it mean I follow up with Upen? Or is it like, no, this is the time to be organic. If she's not texting you, don't text her. But I'm worried about her. When you're really worried, holler. But let her grow. And then you grow. And maybe that energy you have, check up on your kids. That energy you have, focus on what you're building.
It's such a painful thing when you get to realize, and I'm seeing it before us. I'm seeing it with my kids and the whole co-parenting dynamic. So now I live with my last born and I don't live with my other 3 anymore. And now you have that guilt. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's very easy to feel guilty. You failed.
Because I failed. Because you see this one every day and then you don't. So then you try and overcompensate by like video calling every day. But you also don't have the capacity to video call every day. And you're trying to manage all of these things. But while you're trying to manage your kids, you start realizing you're not touching base with your family. And then you're not touching base with your friends. And you're not touching base. And then there's work pressure and there's this and there's that. And you find yourself like lost in your day or the madness of everything. So it's painful when you get to sit back and you go, shit, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I've never been prepared for this. I've never been trained for this, and then you start shitting on yourself and you start feeling low. So yeah, isn't it sure? And it is painful and it's not nice. And I wish we had a better model that we can kind of work off. But ayiko.
So mina now is yakuluma. So I guess these are the things we talk about, and it becomes one of the reasons why so many people are like, yo, I watch you and your brother. Thank you, Mas, for teaching me. And you're like, there's no one in your life that's teaching you about being a young man, about girls. There's no one in your life what the fuck is going on in your life? What are you consuming that you have to watch your Penson and the journey before someone tells you, as a man, you should watch. Like, yo, thank you so much, bro. You're like,
Yeah.
Una 28 and come on, that's wild.
There's no one teaching us this. We've lost that connection. We really have lost that connection. So we kind of go into this world trying to figure it out. And the sad reality is that there's someone who's experienced your challenges before. You just can't tap into who that person may be. So then you'll end up watching these guys on YouTube, whatever the case may be, to try and find a little bit of alignment to how you feel internally. Kanti, the reality is that there's those people within your family, within your community, we just don't have access to. So year after year after year, I remember I did this video about the matric pass rate. Uguti, we're going to have, in 2025, we're going to have another 600,000 matriculants in Ndlovu.
No, I'm listening to you. India matric is another thing that makes my mind glitch.
600,000 matriculants that are going to go into the system and just fizzle out and disappear.
As if we didn't know that they were coming.
And
as if we didn't know that they were fucking coming. Like matric's coming, like Anazi and Saselip and Anazi Nyapi after Auna Plani, but
nothing.
Your parents have been there for fucking 12 years. Your
Nothing.
teachers were there.
Nothing.
What were they doing in grade 7?
Nothing.
They were just, so what's your plan? Now that I'm 18, you're fucking, now?
It's crazy because remember, you go from 1 million in grade 1, I think, if I'm getting it. You go from 1 million people going to grade 1, 600,000 exit in matric.
1.2.
Yeah, 1.2 in grade 1. 600,000 in matric, and only 100,000 seats are available to teach at proper universities. TVET colleges are a piece of pile of crack. And you're like, wait, man, what's going to happen to this 100,000?
What's the plan?
Yeah, like,
what is the government's plan?
The 100,000.
And that's this year.
Yes.
Add about 2023, 2022, 2020.
1996. Sorry. Please carry on. Sorry to throw you off.
He finished matric in 96.
Wait,
96,
so
7.
what's up with this 100,000? They are the only people that have seats
capacity.
in
Capacity.
What, in varsity or
So think about like besides UNISA, like EUJ's probably got the best or the biggest, which is sitting at like 12,000 for available for first years.
I'll give you the number, man. I remember they're oversubscribed, but please carry on. I'll get you the number.
But what's happening?
No, you can talk.
Okay. So like a UJ, let's just say approximately 12,000.
Yeah.
A UKZN is sitting at like 10,000.
Yeah.
First years. If you think about the university I went to, Air Roads, we're sitting at like 1,500 first years.
Yeah.
So when you put it together at, let's say, the top 10 academic or higher institutes of learning, you are sitting with the max 100,000 potential spaces for first years. But of that 100,000, you must understand, which is not just Matric 2024 that's applying for first year. It's also Matric 2023, about upgrade deal, Matric 2022, Matric 2021, Matric that are applying for that same space. And then just because there's space doesn't mean that we can afford to get a seat. Because now people were like, Angzoplag, NSFAS. NSFAS doesn't give 100% scholarship to everyone or bursary to everyone. So when you might only get 50% NSFAS for your tuition alone. So imagine you are a first year AUJ and tuition is just, let me just say 50,000 Rand, and res is another 50,000 Rand. But UNSFAS only gives you 50% for your tuition. Uzoyithola blenye 75,000. Izovela up leyo mali leyo. So now that's where you have Tinage as fucking snakes when we see these first year girls that
You said us snakes.
because angithi uzohlala eBrixton at a commune mos. No sis akazoyithela imali yokuthenga igrocery sifike thina siphethe ama braai pack nama noodles.
In McDonald's in Toneta
McFlurry boy. Because
But
again, you're taking these young girls, these young boys from Newcastle and Ngotu, and you're throwing them into a pram. They don't know what's happening, bro. They have no clue what's happening. And they're going there and bahlanganisa. So again, much like the family unit, much like the school unit, much like it's a continuation of just another year of putting more kids into this world, putting more students into the world, putting more that have no fucking idea what's happening, and it's lambs to the slaughter.
You know,
Before you speak, Debs, I hope you've got your point. 615,000 students passed their matric exams last year. Passed. Obviously, there were some that failed. Of course, we don't know what their plan is, already them. Of the 615, 48% of them got a bachelor's pass to get into university. Of course, you can have another type of pass and go and study at another institution. 48%, yeah. This comes up to 337,000. Of the 337,000, there's only enough space for 200,000. These are kids that qualify for those institutions, but there isn't enough space. And I saw UJ said that for this year, they got a record of 400,000 applications. I don't know if it specifies. But they only have space for about 11,000.
Yeah, no.
400,000 applications, 11,000. Wits has got 6,000 space. UCT's got 4,500. And yeah, to the point that we're speaking about now, it's now next year. So Kaila said, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do about the what are you like?" So you didn't know that they were coming.
And even if you look at the pass, ne? So we'll say 600,000 passed, and we look at Uguti, if your pass rate is 35%, yeah, one upasa.
You pass rate much.
Pass metric, let's just say one. What's pass? 35%. You need to get 30%. So that means of the 100% of the information, I only know 30%. Imagine getting someone operating on your heart that only has 30% of the knowledge and easy.
You also push this pub narrative.
I do. I have to push it.
Say it so we can counter. Finish with your energy.
Let's go with maths, right? So I'm in grade 8. I only understand 30% of the information.
That's not what exams are. Don't do that. Speak about the past. Don't speak about how you interpret the past.
30%.
Not 30% of what you know. It's 30% of the exam.
Okay, 30. Okay, perfect. Okay,
say your thing.
It's 30% of the exam.
Debs and I will come afterwards.
You can come afterwards in each other. It doesn't matter. 30% of.
You're the one with the painted nails here.
Okay.
And the nose ring.
No, but that's not right.
Huh?
Where point out faith and
How are we gonna let him finish my
my boy.
So mina mangithole u30% at the end of my grade 8. Ne? Umuntu uthola 100%. So it says, okay, of the assessments of unyaka, where it's the ama-testi, ama-assessment, eklasini, it ends up being 30%. And I have now this 30% information. I take this 30% from the whole year's continuous assessments and I move that into grade 9. Now, you are telling me, Guti, based on the continuous assessments of my grade 8 year, I only get 30%. I must now take that to grade 9. And then with that 30% information based on the continuous assessments grade 8, I then have to face grade 9 maths. And now what's going to happen? Well, I have a better understanding continuously throughout the year, and I take whatever I get that into grade 10, into grade 11, into matric. What is it that I have? And we can see it in the true reflection when we can say bachelor's pass, but then when I say, okay, Sharp, can you apply for a BCom degree at UCT? Then all of a sudden, that now fizzles out. Of those 250 that got bachelor's passes. How many can
337.
337? How many actually can get into from a requirements a B8 degree at UJ? That's a different conversation now. So again, when I look at this and I'm saying, Guti, the devil's in the detail, rather than just saying the numbers and the stats, if we're trying to break it down and understand that, we realize, Guti, that number that we have is actually way less than what it truly is.
No, we're not speaking about that. Utebs is going to come in and say his piece. We're not speaking. We're just speaking about the whole concept of you've got, let's say, 1 million matrics that pass.
Sure.
And the question is, what is the plan? So, for example, varsity say we can take this much. And it's not only because kids don't qualify. That would be a different conversation. They just don't have space.
That's true.
Then we're saying, if you don't have space, what's the plan? And then for the ones that don't qualify, we're like, okay, you've got a bachelor's, but here's where you are supposed to go.
Yeah.
That's what we were discussing.
Yeah, we're just speaking about this.
We're not.
Space.
We're just saying we don't know what the plan is for the kids.
I have no idea
Not
what the plan
necessarily
is.
the quality of.
I was adding the quality, and I'm just saying, Guti, like it's such a pain. It's such a painful thing where, at least if I am a hardworking child, if I'm a child who can take information, process, and I can do well, the assumption is that even if I don't get into university, because I know how to take information, process information, and apply it, whether it's on an assessment, whether it's in a practical, the assumption is that that child should be okay outside of school. But our kids don't know how to consume information, whether it's from a teacher, from a textbook, process it and apply.
They're not taught.
They're not taught that. They don't have the ability to do that. And we then take those, we throw some of them into universities. They get out to universities just as dumb as they came in, and then some don't get into university, and then they basically not knowing.
Some are dumber after university.
Some are dumber after university because they've got an illusion of
as long as I've got a qualification.
So now it's an illusion. So now this guy's got
on the street because I can't. Not with my diploma.
Diploma in IT, but they have no practical application of that diploma in real life. So he's stuck. I know people that have honors in psychology or sociology or anthropology. Also the honors go anthropology. Now you're just wondering, and then you become an English teacher. No offense to English teachers, but I'm trying to say, Guti, like what you studied is not an application in your actual life. So what was the point of that?
Okay, before I give it over to Dedi Debza.
No. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
to achieve.
What did you call him?
Debza. Don't you own Tribal Media House? It's like Bad Boy Entertainment. Are you not a moku? Are you not a moku?
And I told you I'm fragile today.
I'm sorry. Shabana.
No, my God.
Yeah. No, Penson Mlotshwa afterwards. This is just going sideways.
That's disgusting.
Okay, sorry. By the way, man, outside of everything that's been said about Dedi, I have an ability to separate. Like R. Kelly's music.
Yeah.
Dedi is a fucking legend in business, man. Like we must never take that away from him. Anyways, to achieve a bachelor's part,
I used to be able to do that. Sorry. I used to be able to do that. I'm struggling now more and more. It's like someone who's great in business, but they got a lot of their funding through killing people. I struggle to do that, where as much as the melodies of R. Kelly are great, but then when you start breaking down the lyrics, he's singing about 13, 14-year-old girls, then I start struggling a little bit.
Struggling now after they've told you.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm going to sometimes you can eat a meal. Oh, that's delicious. Then you find out you're eating like, I don't know, donkey testicles. Then you struggle with it. I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still listen to Ignition. I'm saying I'm struggling as it carries on. I'm struggling more and more and more to separate. I used to be able to separate it. I'm just struggling a little bit more.
Ignition ain't
Fine, when you see so blind, then you're told Sis has got a dolly.
It's a trans woman.
There's chance.
What happens?
In the past, you could separate that she's beautiful.
No, in the
and
past,
that
I
she's
didn't
trans.
know. I didn't know. But I'm saying,
You're saying you could separate.
He's saying, I didn't have information.
No, I hear you. I'm saying in the past, you said you could separate. You can't anymore.
No, if I don't know. In the past, I didn't know.
Oh, so you didn't explain properly. You just said you can't. You can't separate.
No. So I'm saying, in the past, I didn't have the information that I have now.
Oh, that's what you meant. No problem.
Yeah.
No, but your example is bad.
No, I'm
It's
saying
a horrible
What
example.
happens when you make the discovery now?
It's a horrible
Yes, I'm saying I'm struggling. No, phela usesusamuhle. That's why I'm saying I'm struggling because I can go.
But those things you
Waziwamuhle. Kwaze kwanzima ukuthi nayo
can
netotolozi.
separate the music, it's there, it's tangible, it's there.
No, but it's a good example. The person you're seeing is still good looking
No,
visually.
but that one you can't separate because unayo.
Yeah, but they're still visually appealing.
But now I've got information with some of the music that I really enjoy are Kelly. I didn't have that information before. So I heard the music. I knew what he was doing his dodgy things. And then the link between, oh snap, Lengoma Len is actually about ingane isan. Now that's the struggle. Hey, lo usesopake kangaka. Isan.
Kanti lo mjito shaya isquad.
Kanti lo mjito shaya isquad.
Lo hambe inyonyobe ngumaskandi.
Squad girl shit.
Black girl squad.
What else is it?
Udla basadi.
I
don't think Udla basadi, that guy.
Saza. Apparently,
That thing is wearing with the fanny pack. And the do-rag.
We don't know. That pens, Ndanga, is very sus.
Let me read here. Take 4. To achieve a bachelor's pass in South Africa, you need to score at least 40% in your home language, 50% in 4 other subjects, and 30% in the remaining 2 subjects. This was one of the things that
50% in how many subjects?
4.
And then 30% in?
School language.
And then 30% in?
Okay.
2.
30% in 2, yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, Maima, you had your chance. It's our chance. It was one of the things, I think the Deputy Minister of Education, I don't know if it was the Deputy Minister, but some lady who's high up in education was trying to explain, because almost my money keeps being about 30% and what, and people keep trying to explain that that's not how it works, number one. Number 2, it's not like we're 30% now, and in the past, was 70. When me and Ukhomoto matriculated, in the years we matriculated, ours was a general 33% is what we had, and there was higher grade and standard grade.
Same.
But yeah, yes, we all matriculate at the same time, Debza. We're almost the same age. Fuck.
I thought you guys are old. Oh.
Okay. I'd like you to give it a bash
Yes, sir.
at telling Penson why his 30% is wrong.
Or your whole thing of
You only know 30% of the content.
hey, then yeah, you comment. And I'm speaking. Let me speak for me. Before me having a lower pass rate worked for me. Like I think I was 34.9 or 35.9. That thing worked for me because I just wanted to exit the space. For me, the space was not about. It didn't determine my intelligence. I mean, I wanted to leave school in grade 9 to be a taxi driver because that school didn't make sense. You can't punch a whole lot of kids in one space. I mean, I know you got another perspective.
No, definitely.
You put kids in one space and then you expect all of them to achieve a certain mark or a pass
So, mind you,
rate.
we have a 70%. We're all celebrating.
So if now you want to be a doctor, put all the doctors of those ones who want 100%, put them in one space.
That's all.
Don't put us in one space and then you are judging us. I don't want to do it. Like me, all I wanted was to exit. Because I
And
knew what I
30%
wanted.
is fine.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Sure.
So separate us, in fact.
Which already gets done, by the way, by the time you filter after matric. They're like, you've got a school leaving, 30%. The next person's got a diploma pass.
Yeah.
The next got a bachelor. And even with the bachelor, the universities also don't say, hey, you got 30% ish. Okay, come study medicine. No, they're like, you don't meet our
So
requirements.
separate us in high school.
So
then.
there's no one who gets 30% and becomes a doctor.
Which is fine. I'm just saying in anything in life, in order to get to that next level,
Yeah.
do we require you to have 30% application for it? That's all I'm asking.
No, but you're forcing all of us to like maths. That's the
I'm not.
problem.
I'm not forcing you. I'm saying, even if you look at what Khan Academy, where he speaks about the scaffolding of information. Let's take you as a taxi driver.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Should you, as a taxi driver,
Yeah.
only understand 30% of the taxi
No, but
driver?
it's because it's what I want. My
That-
levels of
yeah,
me
yeah.
appreciating information even more increases.
Which
there
is,
you force me
which
in
is
a
perfect.
space- yeah.
Then let's relook at it. Because I'm just
cool.
asking, in order to go from step 1 to step 2,
Sure.
Game, I look at it like a child. The child has to sit, then crawl. And we're generalizing because Utebza is very different. Owner of Tribal Media House, you are an anomaly. So unfortunately, we can't use you as a generalization. That's
I
why.
think you can.
No,
Because
you
a lot
can't.
of
You can't. You can't.
No,
You
no,
can't.
no, no,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm not speaking about when you then make it. I'm just saying on the basis of most of the kids who were at these levels of 20, 30%, we all knew what we wanted. Just that night worked out this way. But
Number one, that's not true. Number two,
That's
he
not
was just saying you're an outlier in terms of your success, and maybe we can add things like your curiosity, your desire to learn. The average child like you who got the marks you got and didn't like school, the average, the general, the overwhelming majority are struggling. They're the ones on the SRD and those things.
okay.
So, I'm saying, okay, Sharp, then maybe let's relook at the model.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Let's relook at the model and let's then have a Montessori model where each child then gets to focus on what they're good at and what they enjoy. Sure, if that's the case, then let's do that. But in order for a child to get to that next step, they need to learn how to sit. And from that step, they need to learn how to crawl. And from that step, to walk, from walk to run. And I'm saying, Wuti, you need to have a basic grasp of the concept. And it doesn't have to be 70% to get to that next level. But it has to be something significant where you are proficient enough to get to that next level.
Okay.
So give me, I don't think 30% at driving is good enough for me to say, just because you like a taxi, nanti taxi going. I don't think that's
So
enough.
this is why I fucking hate this 30%. And never mind the bachelor's I read. Let's say we said the pass mark is 30% for every subject
Sure.
to pass.
Wait, I can ask Penson, when you smoke, you don't want us to sit on camera so we can tell NK to cut to Penuel when.
No, I don't care.
Oh,
I'm
you're fine.
trying to respect you guys.
Oh, okay, sharp. I thought it's not
By
something-
smoking and puffing in the air.
Away from
He was
you guys.
puffing
Or you
away.
can just stop smoking.
No, that's a good
Usihlonipha by
conversation.
smoking here, futela.
I mean, I was asking a genuine thing that is
I
that
don't
something-
mind you what you say you're asking.
Yes.
Uyahlonipha by saying no. Ngiyakuhlonipha.
Can you
No,
smell it?
don't smoke. No, don't smell it.
That's why he did it. The fact that you can't smell it for him.
Hey, when I
you,
30% when
Thank you so
I
much,
think
guys.
now.
I appreciate you guys.
I went to Rose University and UJ. Where did you go?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Anyway, sorry. Back to academics, Dr.
Yes,
Mbuyiseni
thanks.
Ndlovu and the likes. Dr. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh. So we are podcast about radio, kodwa banema PhD. Phakeme. Kodwa
Why are you mad, dog? Why are you hating?
I'm not mad.
PhD.
You know, one of the reasons I hate
but that
school.
thing is a problem.
So I'm gonna go back to my point. One of the reasons I hate school, I was a fucking top academic kid.
Yeah.
I went to varsity, I did well, I was a top academic, but
Yeah.
I hate this fucking bullshit that's peddled out there that if you have an honors and a master's and a PhD, that means like you're a superior human. I think it's bullshit. And I appreciate the fact that when I go and speak to kids, I can be like, you in grade 10, you can podcast like me and make money. Not good, yeah, but he studied it. I'm like, hey, you know what? With podcasting, that's got fuck all to do with what I studied. You can judge me on my accounting knowledge separately. But to podcast, to make G was saying the other day, I don't think he went to tertiary as well. Trevor Noah didn't go to tertiary. Hey, Baba, life is what you make it. And we appreciate that academically. When we sit in a university and you're like, well, I'm doctor. You're like, okay. But in the streets, uzongitshela ukuthi mina ngingenaphi ukuthi une-PhD baba. Kumele ngikuhloniphe ukuthi kodwa le nto soyenza la has got fuck all to do. Making money ngidla amathenda. Number 2, I get all the honeys. Ngqubula insimbi more than you. I've got a greater personality. You're just good at academic.
And that's where,
there's a big chance.
that's where I respect
That's
you.
all. That's the only place I respect you. See, Akolisi can't come into a political debate. Well, I'm a Springbok. So what I think about the GNU, hey.
But
We'll speak when we get on the rugby field. Not here.
But
Me and you are the same.
But
We're
Mpofu
nothing.
Welsh, he focuses on PhD yan. Welsh.
Dr. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh, I'm not sure. I can look it up.
But I'm
Anyways,
saying
I was
he
making a point.
focuses on the
My
chats,
point was
though.
just that I don't like that thing. And it's one of the things I hate about school, that I get into a space, we're all coming to chat, we're speaking about film. Debs is here next to me. And they're like, we've got Debs Akibine, who's in film. Ooh. He'll say a few something. And we've got Penuel. Ooh, he went to Rhodes. And you're like, we came to speak about film. That's the guy, not me. I mean, if you want to ask accounting, sure, and economics, and I hate that school does that, where it makes people come with the, well, you know, because the other thing I wanted to say about the PhD, and this is one of the other reasons I can't respect any man on planet Earth beyond myself. There's a reason, no. Most people that get PhDs chose them. It's not because they are better.
No, I don't understand.
Most people that have a PhD chose to get a PhD. most people who don't have a PhD did not choose to pursue a PhD. That does not mean they are incapable. They have the inability. They can't go to tertiary and apply themselves and get their honors and the masters and do a thesis.
Maybe it also
is-
means that.
No, it can, but it doesn't automatically mean.
Yeah, it doesn't automatically.
I'll
mean.
use myself as I don't have a PhD because I don't want. So when someone comes, well, I have a PhD, I don't look at them and say, "Ooh, Anton, you know the way I wanted a PhD, Anton, yes,
But I just didn't make it.
Kanjani. Usia Kolisi can say that. He can be like, hey, look, I'm a pork. I'm like, fuck. Anton, I wanted to be a spring. Okay, we didn't play same positions, but I wanted to be a springbok. I didn't make it. You made it. But with some of these other things, like Iskele, it's like, no, the reason you're doing that is because of.
I think sometimes you guys can be unfair based on where you are sitting. If you are a Debs and you are a successful entrepreneur and you've made it, it's easy for you to look at people that are using the academic route. Or if you are Penuel who has the academic capabilities and also, but on average, you know, it's better to have an honors degree than not.
Now, I'm
in
just
this
saying
country,
in the streets.
you know.
And I'm still in academics, you're God.
In the streets or whatever. I'm saying
In
which
the
is on,
streets.
I'm saying on average in this country.
Okay.
Ne, if I take two normal boys that have the ability to get into university, the one just can't and the one can, and this one ends up going to go work at Pick and Pay, no offense to anyone. This one who goes and studies BCom, they both have the exact same qualification or the same marks after matric. This one gets a BCom, gets his honors in accounts. He will be better off in the world.
And that's true.
On average.
You talk about his earning capacity and his job opportunities.
anything in life,
He's
they're just
earning
better.
how he's viewed.
I mean, there's high
his-
unemployment rate in people who don't have degrees than people with
I'm
degrees.
saying, Wuti, for example,
We're not speaking about
but
the same thing
we
anymore.
might not be speaking about the same thing. The person who is now working his 9 to 5 at Pick and Pay in Newcastle will be stuck in a certain mindset. This one who does his undergrad at Rhodes and then goes to do his postgrad at Wits, he'll be exposed to different things just because of that. Just from an academic point, he'll not just be exposed to become accounting people, but he'll be exposed to different faculties, different thinking, different processing, purely based on that. You know, so again, it's like two rugby players. The one just unfortunately stays at Newcastle and plays rugby in Newcastle.
But that's not a school thing.
And you know what I'm saying?
I'm hearing what you... Okay, let's
yes,
use those kids in
yes.
those examples. The one kid
Yeah.
doesn't go to Rhodes and Wits.
Yeah.
They decide to study in Newcastle. They're
Yes.
both in Newcastle.
Yes.
This guy's
Yes.
at Pick and Pay Newcastle.
Yes.
That guy's studying in Newcastle.
Yes.
All the way till he gets a master's. That kid during
Yeah.
holidays travels around the country. This
No,
one doesn't. Now we're speaking exposure.
Yes, now we speak. Yes, I'm saying with exposure in the university. A person with a PhD has been exposed through their PhD journey. It's the same like gym. I'll be exposed and I'll learn things on my gym journey.
Yes.
Even if I go on a hike. Let's say I'm going on a hike. I'll see a dasi, I'll see an impala, I'll see the different types of trees. I'll be exposed to more than just the hike. That's what I'm trying to explain.
You're saying we have to safely assume that the more academically qualified a person is, by default, there's a high probability that they're more exposed
Yes.
Than the average person.
Yes.
outside of academia.
Yes.
Oh, I disagree.
But I'm trying to say, Guti, let's take myself. Ne? I'm saying, Guti, just by being in Grahamstown,
I hear exactly
after
what you're
matric,
saying.
opened my life.
Never mind school.
Never mind the school.
I fully agree with you.
If I took another Penson who stayed in Newcastle and worked at Pick and Pay, and then took another Penson who worked at Pick and Pay in Grahamstown,
Yes.
that mere exposure alone
Does a lot.
Does a lot.
I agree with you.
So I'm trying to say, Guti, the mere fact that you found yourself in a space where people are, the assumption is that they think and process, is going to force you to think and process in a certain way. Just being on a university campus, psychologically, you feel like, and it develops you. Same way, like just being at gym, you just all of a sudden your chest is, whatever. There's an energy about it.
Their gym, they feel like I'm amongst Okhumutso
Yeah,
with their muscles. Therefore, you're like, aunties that walks every day. You're taking cross.
No, look, again, I'm trying to find two identical people.
No, I hear what you're saying.
Because there are kids
I agree with the exposure.
that are passing school living, but because the way that they view life, ekasi, whatever, they can see opportunities and they
but
can grow.
that thing.
So I'm not saying take that child and force him into university. I'm just saying with it, two average papanyana people. You take the one, we are Kubeko Spani Pick and Pay, the other one, we are Spani Pick and Pay, but you are Jima as well. Just eat gym on the streets will make him different to the one Spani Pick and Pay, we endlin.
You're right.
Lona, we gym, Pick and Pay, endlin. The world will treat him
Exposure
differently.
to anything that is progressive will just make you better. And we have to add tertiary education in that space. I fully agree.
And they've shown that things do get better. That's why parents still send kids to school.
Yeah.
Because they're like, man, I've seen some of the results. I hear you there's a high unemployment, but at least I'll be unemployed with a degree.
They feel like they're better
I want to say this, man. And
So
as we
people think like that.
as we film this episode, Usizwe Mpofu Walsh has passed 200,000 subscribers. That's
done.
fucking amazing.
That's amazing.
And a huge.
Well done to you guys. Jeez, you guys hit.
we hit 200,000
200,000
recently as well.
Yo,
Yeah.
wow.
Shout out to the team, man.
Well done, guys.
Must I give mention names? Khomotso, Sizwe, Yenzi, Q, Comfy, Debza. Who else?
NK.
NK.
The guy that's editing now.
Editing.
MK.
So just said comfy.
I just said Comfy, but sure. MK.
Yeah.
All right.
Use the same name.
Shout out to Sizwe Mpofu Walsh. And look, also, shout out to Dr. Ndlovu, who's joining Power FM now. I just found myself wondering if he waited till he secured another job
Yes.
before he announced. And if he hadn't gotten the job, would he have announced?
No.
And chances are maybe he wouldn't
We need
have.
to
And
stop being
this
philosophical.
is not a
People need
bad
to
thing
survive.
per se, by the way. It's actually a smart thing to do. But it's just, it had me think, I don't think he's just, sometimes people do podcast tours. And you're like, hey, we see Tyrese or not. And it's like, no, he's promoting a new movie or a book or a product. And you're like, oh.
What's another thing that people don't understand, in the workspace, you might sign in your contract what's it called? Restraint of trade. Restraint of trade. So if you work like in media and you sign a contract, Guti, you can't work for another media company for the next 3 months or 6 months, whatever. So there's a lot of things that happen behind the curtains that people don't understand. They're like, oh, why didn't he just go from and go to MK, or whatever the case may be. Kanti kuningi that we don't know. You know?
But you know what it sums up?
Yeah. Huh?
Inyuku, yeah.
Comes across as
you can
Inyuku.
say whatever you want to say.
money.
You PhD, at the end of it, you're like all of us.
My question
to
mark was
survive
just,
that end.
from a credibility perspective, would he still be a member of the EFF if he didn't get the Power FM gig? Which means he'd still be there, even though his heart and soul are not there anymore. And even Nabo Floyd, Nabo Dalimpofu, did they only jump when it was convenient? But their souls were actually not there in the last 2-3 years. But it's like, hey, soon as someone gives me better news, Baba, I'm out.
Yeah, it's food in the belly,
You
clothes
have
on your
to.
back.
I've seen it.
Dr. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh, in 2012, he was awarded a Weidenfeld scholarship to pursue a master's degree in international relations at the University of Oxford, which he started in 2013 and was awarded in 2015. He completed his doctorate in international relations in 2020 at Oxford with a dissertation on the politics of nuclear weapon free zones. That last part sucks. The politics of nuclear weapons. This guy is actually an authority on nuclear weapons. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh is actually going free zones. Anyways, let me make my point so we can move on.
I need to
I know
do
we don't
a
have much time.
PhD in Zulu second language, non-mother tongue speakers in junior primary school. Kodwa ngibiza ngo-Dr. Mlotshwa. Kanti manibheka i-PhD,
And the
Amanzi.
point of that, in fact, Odama no study shit, eh?
The Mlotshwa brothers are actually pieces of shit. I just want to say
khona abantu
officially on camera.
abane-PhD engekho.
Why does the free zone thing have why is it a problem for you guys? What is it?
I mean, I didn't say anything. I didn't say I've got a problem
Again,
with
man,
anything.
shout out to him.
I didn't say I got a problem with
I
I
anything.
mean, yeah, okay, maybe I'm using the wrong words, problem, but
Use the mic.
it changes. Yeah, it's Russia. It changes kind of what it means.
For me,
You guys, yeah.
like if he'd done
Why?
a PhD in nuclear weapons or nuclear technology, I'd be like, yes, he probably did a lot of research and
Because he had to,
the
it's
whole
almost like he had to
uranium
study, the
fission,
nuclear.
the creation of nuclear
But you have
energy.
nothing to do with nuclear. You went big.
But
free zones.
It's nuclear weapon free zones, which I'd assume, I wouldn't know. Maybe he did all of that work, by the way, to his credit. But it's almost a focus on not necessarily the technology, but the Maybe let's say the geography and the because it is the politics. That's the other thing at the beginning. It is the politics of. So it's a PhD in politics that has to do with nuclear weapon free zones. It is not a PhD in nuclear weapons. It is not a PhD.
It's literally
in technology.
PhD. I've got a PhD
In the politics of zones, not even the politics of the weapons themselves.
Yeah, so the international relations thing makes sense if they're talking about zones and stuff.
Sure.
It sounds like a geography. It's the PhD in studying hot chick free zones. So like,
You want to study hot chicks?
free zones. So la ngistudy khona where come hot chicks. Ingane ezimbi.
Why are there no hot chicks here?
Why? Oh, this is what I do.
It's a free zone.
Big booty. Free zone.
Where is there no big booty?
So la ngikhona ngibheka neyishwapha. So manje ngistudy, but it seems like the big booty hot chicks perky titties is iyona enkulu. But free zones.
I just want to add again. I want to add again categorically, and this is why we get trolled. The Mlotshwa brothers are actually pieces of shit.
Ama disclaimer. Mina la ngikhona yishwapha nje. Labo sisaba namabele ale ngamadolweni.
Mali naked, man.
Titties out.
Amabele ale ngala ngamadolweni. Yabona?
Guys,
I study perky titty free zones. Big booty, yellow bone.
You did well to not get a mic.
Free zones. Yabona free
to not
zones.
be included in this
Nginkinga
garbage.
mina no free zones. No free zones yang affecta man. Yeah, my free zone boy. Gijima lapha phansi ayahuduka like orangutan knuckles. Singahleki.
So you realize you're also exposing yourself here as a piece of shit. Homoto,
No,
I think you're safe. You did nothing wrong.
We love
But
our
mina no
sisters.
Penson are bad.
We love our sisters. We love our
Penson's the worst,
sisters.
and then we have Vutu Debs.
No. We love our sisters. I don't agree with the Debza thing saying those chicks that have multiple kids because again, your body does change once you have kids. So shout out to all the moms out there.
Okay, let me make my point. Otherwise, we drag it for too long. Even if we made it a 30% across the board, how you measure school outcomes, which is part of the problem with our education system, is it's based on a few exams and some continuous assessment. It is not a declaration that you only know 30% of the content. And anyone who's been through the school system would know that depending on the levels, they do exceptions testing. That means they don't give you the easiest questions of the year that you're like, do you really? They give you the tough questions. That's why kids do your Pythagoras, your physichem. So 30% in maths doesn't mean you know 30% of the knowledge. It means you got 30% in the exam. And it means you got 30%. We don't even know if your methodology or something that you missed. It's not that you don't know it. And that's the biggest issue that I have. So for example, he used an example of a driving test. Now, the fact that you failed your driving test doesn't mean you don't know how to drive. When they look at it, they're like, yeah, you forgot to indicate here, like, ish. And then you roll back and you're like, you failed. Donna, you shouldn't be driving. I'm like, this guy's been driving for the past 10 years. Shoot on that day, usuke wapapa, wanga indicator, and then you rollile kancane, and I'm like, for me, that 30% doesn't speak to their knowledge base. And more than anything, this is why I feel like the content of education is what should change more than the pass mark. If you give a child 30% looking after livestock, growing crops, versus a child who gets 70% in, what's a useless school subject? Give me one. LO.
I almost said LO is sharp.
Which I never studied LO, man. That was not my years. What's a useless school? But just think of a useless subject.
Home economics.
No, home economics is there with the farming.
No, how it's being taught.
Okay, that's too technical.
Like LO.
I'm trying to explain that you can get 90% of knowing the periodic table. So you know zinc is what and hydrogen is. The other child got 30% in growing food. Yes, 70% they struggle, but Ntwana, this child can grow food. Yeah. When you can regurgitate the periodic table, I'm like, who the fuck cares if you got 90% in physics, if to what you were saying earlier, he can't apply it. So this 30% for me is a problem because we can take the pass mark to 70 and then we'll all clap hands and most of the kids will fail. And then kids that got 65%, you'll find out that they know the information, but the way the exam was set was in such a way that they couldn't get 71. But if you actually look at the knowledge base of the child throughout the year, they're like, this kid kind of knows, man, what the fuck they're doing. So, and when they said this thing, they were saying, of all the knowledge, We think this test, if you get just 30%, we have an idea that you kind of know the knowledge. Not which you know 30%. You can't know a whole year's work in 3 hours of an exam. That blows my mind.
So again, that's where you're wrong. So
What's the weighting on it?
I was about to say, I was a teacher for a decade.
Yeah, guys.
So when you again, it's continuous assessment. So
I
it's
mentioned continuous assessment.
So again, it's not an exam, not a one exam.
Okay.
And even if we look at the exam, the curriculum is based on Bloom's taxonomy. Ne? So you've got your 6 levels on it, with the first one being your basic recall of information and your last one being creative. So if we think of an English test, the bulk of your questions will be recalling information, right? So what is an abstract noun? Or when we were younger, we had spelling test, spell apple. So the majority of the questions is based on that. And as the pyramid goes up, the smallest part is the creation. So create a poem, right? So again, that has the smallest weighting based on all these studies that I've done. So when I set a math test, right, let's just say that carries the whole weight of the year, let's just say hypothetically, that math test, the way that you set it, it's all of this has to be on a bell curve. The way that it's set is so that the majority of the questions are based on level 1 and 2 order of thinking. Rabon. So you'll have about 60% of the questions meant for the level 1, level 2 type of processing and thinking. And then you'll have another 30%, which will be based on things like application, will be based on things like, are you able to critique? Are you able to process and then give me that information? And then you'll have 5 to 10% that's based on creating. And then again, that exam alone might only carry 20%, if not less than.
Let me read this. Let me read this officially before you speak. In South Africa, continuous assessment at matric level accounts for 25% of your final mark.
So 75.
75 is the exam. Is that I was speaking about? Yeah.
So wait.
I don't know. You can go and argue with this thing here. CAS marks, impact and tips of success for grade 12.
So you're saying your CAS marks...
Gauteng.net matric marks are calculated.
So you're saying your final exam in matric...
I'm not saying. I'm reading here.
No, where are you reading it from? You're reading from Wikipedia.
Okay.
Marabafet, wait, man. I want us to go back to the first thing.
Go for it. He taught for 10 years. I taught for 10 years. My mom was a fucking teacher for 4 years.
But I did.
I think you do need to kind
And
of...
how many exams have you seen?
It's kind of a... Otherwise,
They're on a PhD. No, free zones.
I've got Wikipedia information free zone. Kulungalo literally goes, and he likes doing this with conviction. He'll open his phone.
Here,
and
Department of Basic Education. You can look at it yourself.
I want the
Don't argue with me.
final exam.
Why are you pushing the phone away? I'm showing you the Department of Basic Education.
What are you showing me?
There.
Open it up.
There.
Show me the exam
Department
final.
of Basic Education.
Show me. What are you showing? Show me. Get in. Click.
But why don't you click? You can click.
I'll click it.
And then argue with it.
I'll definitely argue with this thing. This thing is...
We'll figure out well. I want to tell you you're
So,
wrong.
Mara Penson, what you're saying is already from your knowledge, from your experience, it's different.
Yeah.
What's the weighting from your experience?
It depends on the grade. It depends on the subject.
Matric. We're speaking matric. That's all we've been speaking about.
Yeah, let's go matric. 'cause I guess
So I've never taught matric.
No free zones. We spoke about this.
But it has more knowledge.
Of what? More knowledge of what? More knowledge of what? More knowledge of what?
Wait.
of what's happening in that industry. He's
No, that's
in
not
it.
true.
What do you mean?
That's not. So what we're debating has got nothing to do with experience teaching. So we need to make sure of what we're disagreeing on.
You said
Right?
that...
So he's got way more experience teaching. He can have it.
Being in that world.
But
He's got
sure,
more
sure.
how do I
Being in
open
that
it
world.
down? How do I
But
open your
that
downwards?
doesn't necessarily mean
Then
he
studies.
has more knowledge on how matric pass marks are calculated.
No, what I know is isolated 21. I thought we were generally was scalar.
That's what I was talking about.
So now when you're going to isolate a matric, then it's a different conversation. Then it's done.
It's only a different conversation if we can agree that all the other grades have a higher weighting than 50% for continuous assessment,
But
which
you
then
must-
becomes the dispute. But if that's not the case, going back to what I was saying, because I remember Prof. Arthur Webb when I was at Rhodes, he was our economics lecturer at third year level. One of the things he had an issue with and that he raised was he shifted in his course, which was unheard of at the varsity, where continuous assessment weights 60%. So
And
if you could get
for
close to
Don's
60%,
studies,
if you can go to
your Don studies final is 50%.
I can't finish.
And that
So I can't
50% has practical and theory. In Don's studies, that's what he was referencing. Don's studies.
He went to the Department of Education.
Yes,
went
and
to
then I
studies.
clicked into it.
Oh, were you still?
No, he read. You know when you see articles, there's a line. You see that.
Jesus Christ.
You need to know when you go on Google. It's just lines, ne? Then you click because the stats. What you good stats is like a bikini.
Yeah.
Ne? So I clicked and then it gave me an option of downloading it because then it's a reference to Don's studies and it breaks it down per year group. And it does a very. You want to have a read?
It's okay if it's.
Can you please go back to something more serious, man, of it?
No, we have to break it down because
the
when
thing
he
is
says
wrong
curse,
and it's okay. But,
but
at least we'll have knowledgeable people in the comments.
He read one line. I went into his one line and it's written at the top, Don studies grade 10 to 12, section 4 assessment, introduction, informal and daily assessment, formal assessments, and it breaks it down grade 10,
okay.
how it's broken down grade
okay.
10 to 11, and then grade 12. So I'm reading the whole document. He read a line. And then based on a line, we have to agree with him. Based on the document, all of a sudden he seems ntege.
This is the guy who taught for 10 years, by the way. I just want to mention this.
When you know what he's like? You know Christians when they read a verse.
Are we
Oh,
going back to Jesus?
No, man,
no. Christians will read a verse like this. This is how Christians will read a verse. Water is the prime substance of life. Ne? What does Jesus say? Prime. What is prime? Prime is at the beginning and the end. And life. And they just take a verse with no context and they plug it into the world. And now we have to agree. Oh, sharp. Oh, sorry. We read a line. Get into it, interrogate it, and unpack it. And let's be open to learn if we're wrong. Ne? Because I had assumed the final exam was 25%. And I learned 75. That it's now 50%. Yeah. Ne? According to the document that he downloaded or I downloaded off his website that he showed me. Yeah. It's 50%. For Don studies. Ne? Of which that 50% is also broken down practical and theory. Ne? Okay, sure. We don't know which one in the final assessment, how the weighting of the practical versus the weighting of the theory. But we know that becomes 50% of the year for dance studies. Ne? We must be technical when we unpack these things.
Dance studies is also a study.
No, I mean, for like art. Art, the weighting in art is not the same as weighting in physics.
Yeah.
I would assume. Right?
Your assumption's wrong.
Okay. So, physics,
no, it's not theory and practical. It's just continuous assessment and exam. Sorry. No, I need to say this because this is important for the audience, not us. I'm going to speak to the audience. People must go and do their own research. Very important. This is just a podcast. And I'm going to give one more reference, but I need people to go and research this because some of these clips get taken out and then people go and it becomes a thing. This is from the University of Stellenbosch and people can go and check it. An analysis of continuous assessment, CAS, C-A-S-S, compared to matriculation exam results at South African schools from November 2008. This study analyzes information and feedback from the matriculation level continuous assessment in the South African education system in 2005. Continuous assessment at the time carried a 25% weight in the final matriculation mark, and it provided feedback that affected, etc., etc. But I'm only raising this for people to go and do their own research, so it doesn't become a joke and a link and dance studies and what, because this actually impacts people's lives in real time.
That's true.
And the point that I was just trying to make is the final exams, which I think most of us know generally, carry a lot of weight. We can maybe debate how much. They carry a lot of weight. And I've got an issue because matric is also a culmination of grade 11 and matric, but also all the other years. And if we decide at some point to change the pass mark from 30, we need to make sure whatever that pass mark is as close as possible to measuring the knowledge of the child. And not for us to assume that because a child got 30% in an exam or a couple of exams or some continuous assessment that they don't know that stuff. And that just becomes very dangerous. That's all. There's a point I wanted to make, man. Sorry, Tebza, Penson, this is going to be the last thing, and then you can speak. Sorry, bro.
No, I don't need to be there. Just
when we were speaking earlier about things we don't know, Utebza looked up in the sky and I thought he wanted to say something. I don't know if you still want to, because the thing I wanted to raise is people, young boys in particular in our case, come to podcasts looking for knowledge. And I'm wondering if maybe this is why we'd need like maybe a men's conference once a month, or maybe why people even went to church. I guess podcasts become church now. Would like say, I need to watch this guy once a week because there are things my dad, my uncle, my mom, my aunts are not teaching me. And the only place I ever found these things was with these guys. And if it wasn't with these guys, I was never going to have this knowledge.
You said something so profound now when we were busy talking about the matric pass rates. You said, guys, please do your own research. I think in any topic that we do or anything that we discuss, it's so important for people to do their own research. And here's the problem with how we do our own research. I'm to blame. You find something or you find someone that agrees with you. It's almost like an echo chamber, and we don't do our due diligence.
Due diligence.
So Penuel will say something that you disagree with, and then you go and you speak to Caesar who also disagrees with the Penuel, and then that's it. They are wrong, and it's maybe an ego thing. It's maybe I don't know what it is.
It's an ego thing.
It's confirmation bias.
And it's
Confirmation
propaganda.
bias.
Confirmation
where,
bias.
Where we don't really want to find something that will disagree with us, but that's where the learning is, And yes, it's humiliating at that time when you found out about transgenders, transgender, or you find out about whatever the case is, it might be, but it's great learning for future. So rather take that humiliation, rather take that research so that it can propel you forward. Versus
trying to be right.
This is what Penuel said. This is what's happening. Boom. So I think that's quite crucial.
Thank you.
Sure.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention. I don't know how long we've been going for, sis.
I haven't been going for long, man. An hour.
An hour 7. The thing is, Penson needs to leave.
Okay.
So I don't know how much time you have for us.
I still have a sizzling 30 minutes.
Okay.
The before we went into this, all the things we're talking about, the first initial thing we spoke about, I'm wondering, what is it about our elders that they just couldn't sit with us and say, Ndwana, let me break down these things? Because right now, what I have on my phone, I've got a folder where certain thing, if I think of it, I write it down immediately so that Ndwana, my brother, doesn't have to go through it, or my kid, Because I'm like, I don't think there was ever a point in time where my parents were like fully intentional. We're like, this is what we're going to teach you about life. And that's why we go astray, in fact. Just that we were lucky that where we outsourced our information, it worked for us. Whereas the other kids, when they outsourced the other information, it was gangsterism,
Sure.
We just got lucky. I don't know how. But I wonder why there was never a point, and I think it's mostly, and it's a culture thing. It's a culture thing, yeah. I shouldn't be intentional in teaching this child. Black family is, you'll figure it out as you get older. And that thing is dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
That thing is very dangerous. There isn't a point where it's like, I'm going to teach you. Practical thing. You spoke about, you were never taught about that friends are going to leave you. Yeah? Most niggas, when they get married, they are taught on the day, that hypocritical thing that's done in a second. Hey, Ndwana, do this to a woman. That thing is 6 minutes, it's out. But prior to that, when you tell them, let's say 2 years before, like, Chance, I think I want to do this. They're like, okay, no problem. Every month we want to teach you about this thing, what it actually means, and the different phases of it. There's honeymoon. After honeymoon, there's a kid. Once there's a kid, the higher chance of you living is high. You can do these things so that you can stay. So there isn't these things, and I'm trying to figure out why. Why aren't they intentional things that are like what we're discussing now? We're trying to be intentional in Mosaic as they grow, to say, this is what I've learned, and I'm telling you. But this with us, it was not there.
I think religion is there for a reason, right? If you read the Bible or the Quran and stuff, it's got all of these practical lessons and ways to be while trying to live, right? So I think it was realized at some point already that passing down of information from generation to generation is not that straightforward, or it's not that easy. And I don't know if part of it, so I want to say, Ori, I don't think it's the fault of the older person not passing down the information. I think the receiver of the advice sometimes doesn't take it or can't take it, because the person giving you the advice is usually not even your peer. They don't look like you. You're like, oh, I'm living in a different world altogether from what you are doing. So I actually think that the question should be, or what other ways should there be to get this information, like besides it being given to you by your parents or being forced down to you by your parents? Because I think that might not even work that well. Because I think about myself, for instance, like I'm growing up in a world that my parents did not grow up in, most of it, right? So even the advice that they would have tried to give me wouldn't have been that applicable. Some of it maybe.
I think majority of it would, man. Like the simple thing.
Majority like what?
But the simple
No, but
thing that the
Debs,
guys
no,
spoke
but you're being unfair, because if I don't know how to swim, how am I going to teach my kids how to swim?
No, but
That's a
I'm
practical
not
thing.
going that far, Jess. I'm saying the thing that Penzo spoke about right now, that I didn't know that friends are going to leave. That thing is going to be there forever.
Yes, but he's hitting it now. Some people never hit. You see that this epiphany that he's having? Let's say he had it at age 35. Some people only get it at age 70.
But
some people never get it.
But what I got from what he said, and he will correct me if I'm wrong, is it's the thing of, if I was taught that thing, the pain of it would have been less.
By who?
Maybe let me try getting here. I don't know if you want to say something.
Sorry, I just want to jump in
sure,
quickly.
sure.
I think sometimes we're very, very unfair because of how you have such an inquisitive mind. You have a mind that's like yearning for knowledge. Most people aren't like that. Most people just wake up, go to their job, do exactly what they're told, go back home. You know, they just do the for them, there's no anything. They don't dream about going to Mars. They don't dream about anything. You know, the best they can is, oh, that's the best. So it's also hard for what we are yearning for, the mentors that we are looking for. They unfortunately for our parents might not be those people. So, and then on top of what you are saying, sometimes it's also we are not ready or we don't possess. I remember in varsity, I used to go to lectures and I used to sit there for an hour and come out like nothing. Like, next. Some people left and they were just full of information. I left dumber than when I walked in. You know, so again, one, it's our parents just not knowing and not having this information. And two, also us not being able to receive it.
But they do. They choose not to tell you. If it knows about that, but a simple thing of
No.
Let me give you another example.
Okay.
Let me give you an example.
It's Balgaya the same information.
No.
But like he's saying, some
get you.
person's walking out with 10, another person's walking out with 40%.
I'm
So
speaking
it's not about the fact that you're given the information.
Yeah, I'm speaking about practical things. So your dad knows that has got a higher rate of wanting to cheat at a very early stage. Early. No, but hear me out. Hear me out. I would have loved the conversation to say, Donna, you know when you get to these stages, it means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Parents choose not to have that conversation, whatever decision they choose. Then what happens in society? Higher rate of people that are pregnant, young girls in matric, grade 11, they're just pregnant, because the parents chose not to give that child the knowledge. They wanted someone else to
when
give
will
them
you
the
tell your
knowledge.
daughter about sex?
Me. When does a child start her thing?
Let's say 12.
Yeah, definitely.
At 12.
Starts menstruating.
All right. Someone would
And I
say,
forget it. And here's what I'm saying, guys. Saying that you give the child information means that they're going to be a success. I'm not saying
no. Let's say you say, I'll give my child information at 13, right? Your daughter, for whatever reason, God forbid, touch wood, falls pregnant at 12.
Sure.
We come back and we're like, hey, there's like Debs. Why did you not tell your child?
I did. I can stand and say I did. Then they made the choice.
You're not listening. Sorry.
I'll say
You tell the child at 13,
decide to
she
give
fell
the child
pregnant at 12. Before you told her.
Before you told her, you decided, I'll give my child this information at 13. She falls pregnant at 12. You have a room of fathers that told their daughters at age 8, well before they even got into their periods and whatever the puberty. Then we say, hey, why are there some fathers that withhold information for this, what, and this long? You thought that it was appropriate for you to do it when she was going through puberty. The same way that some people think it's appropriate to go to once you are getting married, that on the day or the day before, that's their time. So it's different processing. Ulungile hit this epiphany at age 35. Someone might have hit it at 25. Some hit it at 50. That's all I'm trying to say. And then some never get to it. Some never teach their kids about sex. They just hope one day bazoyifunda esikolweni or masibe na 30. So it's just different, and it's hard to literally blame our parents. I don't know.
Let me come in here. This thing is so multi-layered because you asked the question, and I'm going to try and answer it as quickly as I can. There was a way that Black people in particular, because we're Black people in this room, that we lived, and it had a lot to do with communal living. And all the education would happen here because it would be a community. Some of the education you wouldn't be told, you'd see. So you'd see a girl older than you falling pregnant as a girl. And then from there, other girls would be shouted at. Nimbonilu, banbanu, wenzenjani. And then other boys, it's like, hey, Khumut was now going to the mountain to go. And you're like, hey, don't know what's going on there. Because we were all here and the education was all around us. So I think there was an assumed education just in terms of living. And then we got disrupted by modern capitalism, colonizers, and we got split. A lot of our fathers were taken away. So whatever we would have seen from them, we wouldn't even see. If they're not taken far away, they're taken away in terms of daily. Penson's boys doesn't know what he's doing during the day. They see him in the afternoon, evening, tired, finished. And on the weekend, he's drinking, watching sports. His brain, the last thing in his brain is him worrying about. So we were disrupted in that way in terms of most parents don't even think about the idea of sharing information. It's assumed that you learn at school, you learn along the way. Come on now, nami ngafunda fetu kandi moto nje. Akwazi ukandi moto. And you're like, bro, I don't know what you mean. And in closing, to solve this thing, it's number one, this is why we need families to spend more time together. Because a lot of the education, I mean, Penson and I now, whether you guys are aware of it, we're having a therapy session as brothers. That other brothers who don't podcast, are not in the same geography, are not raising these topics, will never speak about, just by default and incidentally. So if you spend more time with your family, there are things you will see and learn that they'll mention in passing, or a movie you guys will watch that will trigger a conversation you would have never, ever had. I know many, I'll call it white families, but there are many progressive families who make it a thing that at least one meal a day, whether it's breakfast or supper, where no phones, no TV, we're just chatting. Because we know how important just those who, hey, my dad used to always at supper be like, how was your day at school? What's happening with the girls? Hey, you're not 12. Are there girls busy menstruating? Dad, don't do that. Because if you don't do that, you'll never get to it. You're like, hey, there's actually a girl at school who's pregnant. Hey! You're like, una 14. Yes, sis, we've never spoken about sex with this one.
Immediately you hit.
So immediately you hit. So there's people that do that. In the absence of that, there's ensuring that you send. Some parents are very scared, by the way, scared to engage their kids on sex. So they'll send hey, my friend said this podcast would be, and you're like, oh, why is my dad sending this? It's so cringe. But it's like, hey, hey, ubofunda le ncwadi le. My mom, before I went to varsity, by the way, Penson's mother, she cracks a joke in passing. She's very sarcastic. Yo, send yama varsity. Ay, melisi nambisa ne container yama condom. That was the first and only sex conversation we ever had. That was the conversation. We have varsity. Ay, melisi nambisa phela ne ice cream container yama condom. That was the beginning and the end. That's it. Yeah. So we've got problems. And then for many, especially Black people are getting into this now because of this lack you're speaking about. They're saying go to therapy. They actually don't know what therapy is. Most people don't know what therapy is. You should go to therapy. What we're actually saying is, there are things you're going through or things you're struggling with. Go and speak to hopefully knowledgeable people. The other conversation we're having in therapy, make sure it's someone that you identify with. You're sending your 14-year-old son who's always got a boner in the morning when you're like, hey, no. You're sending him to a white woman to be like, I want to discuss his sexuality. Do you identify as a boy? You're like, that's not the conversation I wanted. Bengifuna kahle kahle fethu ayakhuluma no malum Khumut sekuse lentwana ehlezi ibhonyelo ekseni. Like, okay, I know uzokhuluma naye because I don't have that thing of feeling like I'm his dad. Don't know, manje manje girls, yo, Uncle Khumut, there's this chick at school, wet dreams nyana. Yeah, there was one, and you're like, do you speak to Ntwana? Sure. Please make sure that you just cover these two things. Because Ntwana, I remember at his age, would mean I used to grab girls' bums and they'd laugh. But I know today, which if he grabs a girl's bums, I'm going to be called into the school. Ntonam's going to get expelled because that's sexual harassment or assault. And you're like, okay, Ntonam, no, I'll sort it out. It's the talking.
Yeah.
And my last point is Penson and I, our cousin Penson Mlotshwa invited us to a men's conference. These are older men, well established in their careers and businesses. And we sat around and we had a chat about many things, struggles. Some of those guys were divorced. They got home, the woman was gone. Some are not seeing their kids. These things that we're struggling with now. And one of the points I made while we were there was, guys, it's nice that we're speaking now at this age. And we're all saying, we wish we were told when we were younger. And it's like, but why are our boys not here?
Yes.
Why are our boys not? I can contribute, or you'll contribute a little bit at the end. But man, this goes back to now how Africans used to live. Ukuthi there's a lekhotla, khona indaba, whatever, khlangene la. Abafana sit on the outskirts and they're just there to listen. And because that's where some of our knowledge, some of us that are curious, uhlala nama timer. Ubezwe khulu, hey, phela mina intombi yami ntwana. Ayona mfana, vala indlebe. But you're listening to, okay, so these fuckers, wena uqala kwazi nokukhanda imoto. Hayi phela wena ngithi nina nanemoto kini. Oh, okay. My cousin Usazi Mbenze, our older cousin. One of the criticisms I had of him was, why are you not teaching your boys the skills you have, business? His answer to me, which at the time I had an issue with, then I understood later, and I'm also realizing, no, this was a problem, is he said, these boys see me fixing cars and making things and building things, and they see me in business, and they never come to ask.
No, you
Which
shouldn't
wait,
like
relax. And he says that tells me that they're not interested. So the only thing I'll push is they must get an education and they must go get jobs. He's like me. From a young age, I'd see Amatama doing something I'd see, and my curious mind drove me there. To him, he was like, I know I need to do something, but because they're not naturally inquisitive, I'll only do this.
that.
So for some of us at the time, I was like, force them to hand you Hispanela, and which becomes a debate. It's like, say, because the kid's going to be traumatized in therapy. My dad used to force us to fix cars. That's why I hate him, because it's so tough.
It's a difference.
But sometimes it's just like,
it's the Michael Jackson effect, boy.
Be around these kids and just take it from there.
So you spoke about therapy, and I read this line that I've heard 1,000 times where they say, if you don't heal from what hurt you, you'll bleed on people that didn't cut you. So we've heard that line, and I've always linked that line with romantic relationships. You know, I've always been like, okay, no, sharp, you know, I need to heal from my past relationship, you know, whatever the case may be. She was lying, she was what, so that I don't bleed onto my new relationship. And for the first time, and I know maybe many people have looked at it differently from me, but many people, like for the longest time, I saw it from a relationship, but now it's like, who hurt me? The trauma that I have, not just now as an adult, that I've carried all this time, right? And as a result, I will then bleed on my kids, on my family, on my friends, not realizing Guti, nalabantu who were bleeding on me. But they were hurt and cut because, again, as Lungal was talking about the whole colonization, the whole this, the whole that, as a result, then they started bleeding on us in their way, you know, and now we carrying this trauma and we're not going to heal from that from childhood. There's so much trauma and stress and pain that you are carrying from childhood. So, for example, let's say Usazi now, all of a sudden he's like, well, I did this as a child. So if I did this as a child, why can't they do that as a child? Automatically, you know. Or we do the other way where we force them, and that's you bleeding because now this is your, I had this, so now uzowenza ngenkani, and you start realizing, we have no idea, and you hit it so amazing, we have no idea what therapy is, what it looks like, because we don't know what we're trying to get. What are the objectives with this therapy? You know, if you just someone to listen to you, so you're going to go find someone to listen to, or you want someone who's going to assist you solve your problems, or you're going to someone to, and then you realize, the source of your therapy or the source of this is, I used to do this thing when I used to work for an NGO. It's family therapy. So there's a psychologist called Carl Rogers, and he does family therapy. And he says, he doesn't want to do therapy. You can't do therapy in isolation. You can't do therapy in isolation. It's ideally he wanted community, but the next best thing is family.
Uncipha wedwa kodwa ekhakini basapheka
Yes,
ithulu. Every day khona amagwinya
yes,
ne-aji.
kinidudla kodwa wena ufuna
No, but bakuphakela nentaba. That's the other problem.
ne-dessert ama-sweets.
Kodwa wena uzama ukuncipha
Yabo?
wedwa.
So his whole concept was ukuthi you heal the environment that the person is in. So if this child is acting out, you need to chances are the environment that they're in is what's causing the child to act out. And it's all about having their whole family structure. So when you think about therapy again, do we understand the trauma that we have as family units? When uhambe uyenza therapy yakho yokukhuluma nomlungu thizeni, you come back, I'm healed. Go back into that exact same environment.
Have you seen those memes with lo gogo lo mama ongathi esontweni?
Uvula umnyango.
Athi konje kuthiwa siyakutraumatize, si-toxic. We are not a safe space. We are disturbing your peace. You're like, okay. The same people abangineza amasimba, the therapist said, make sure that you let them know, express your... I just wanted to say, ukuthi nina ni toxic, and niyangilimaza, and you're bleeding on me. Ooh, phela siya bleed, ninga-bleedi.
Hey,
Ninga-bleedi, so
ngama-plaster. Thola ama-plaster.
That's the environment.
Thola ama-plaster. Because we don't know what we're saying. We say heal. What does that mean? Heal. How do I heal? When you say trauma, because we spoke about this in the last recording where we speak about like generational curses. God, we're not saying ukuthi uma wakho na is holding on to inhlungu and her pains as a child, not getting loved or being pushed away. That will affect a child in some form. Whether kwagoko there'll be lessons and the child will grow and become independent, or whether growing up kwagoko the child will feel like they didn't love me and they threw me away. But there will be something from that. And based on how you were brought up, that's how you'll change your parenting. It will be now where you might say, or you'll say, hey, I don't want the same experiences for my child as I had. Therefore,
you either copy or do the opposite.
Right? It's the whole bully analogy. If we get bullied, it's either I'll continue bullying people because I got bullied, or I'll say I got bullied and I won't bully people. Or Kelly, I got victimized as a child. I got this. That's why I act out like this. Or you'll say, because I did that, I don't want to.
It's the story of the alcoholic father. An alcoholic father gives birth to 2 sons. The one son becomes a superstar, very successful, not a drop of alcohol. The other one becomes an alcoholic. Wow. They ask both sons, why don't you drink? Why are you so successful? Why? Because my dad was an alcoholic. Yep. You ask the other son, why are you an alcoholic and a piece of shit?
My dad
was an alcoholic.
And one thing there are 2 things that I've figured out a lot is, one, the idea of forgiving your parents is very important.
Of?
Forgiving your parents. You need to forgive them because it speaks to what we're speaking about. Now, like, they just didn't know. Like,
Self-tough.
Like they didn't know what parenting is themselves. They didn't go to a school. There's absolutely nothing that they know,
And dealing with kids in a different environment.
And what train now, especially the firstborn, what train now. The lastborn, they even go extreme. I'm spoiler like yes, like crazy, So once I got to the stage where of forgiving parents, it becomes much easier to reconcile on some of the issues you'd have had with them.
Now let me add on to something. Now I'm moving off.
Sharp.
But train on a firstborn.
Yeah.
Then they've got the blueprint. Ne? And then they try and take lo size 8 to start.
If it worked. That's very important.
If it worked. Or let's say, because again, we don't know if it's worked if your firstborn is still 2.
Okay.
So we don't know if it's worked.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you'll take that blueprint or that memo. Yabon, mesuzoyifaka la. And la na la akfan as the 2 kids that are the one becomes a success, doesn't drink alcohol, the one you also forget that. Yeah. So now if firstborn utebza and ube this person and by age sasimshaya and as a result by the age 3 intwana inje. Therefore, makufika omunye asenze the same thing.
The environment is different.
The environment is different. I'll give an example. I'm 10 years older now with my last child than when I was with my first child. I'm 10 years older, bro. 10 years older.
Different animal.
It's 2 completely different Pensons. Sure. Raising just this guy. Raising Uzita versus raising Untumbeza. It's 2 completely different Pensons if I'm just looking at myself. 10 years ago and 10 years now. Mentally, financially, forget the fact that it's 2 different mothers that have their own genes and their own ways and views of life and what. Just me alone, it's
And the world is changing. There's
And the-
AI now. Then we were
Then-
still celebrating tablets.
Yeah, like, so when I look at that variable and I look at that, I'm just going, we can say we forgive the parents, ne? But are they also forgiving themselves? Because are they healing? Are they fixing?
And that's the
'Cause
community therapy.
it's difficult to forgive someone who's not trying to fix and work on themselves. Because again, I might say, I forgive lo mama says, oh, siyaplita, pes gwen. But they're not fixing and changing. So manje uti, I must forgive that person. Aga work. It's a whole community thing. Everything is so interconnected. And the whole conversation that we're having is about, in my opinion, how one affects the other. Whether it's we're talking about education, how the education system that we said maybe needs an overhaul or whatever change affects how people are in the world, how our grandfathers and colonization is affecting, how this is affecting that. I feel like we need to sit as communities and say, hey, let's look at this bigger picture. Yeah. Let's look at how this piece affects this piece in order for us to thrive.
On the part of 10 years, sorry, Debs, you want to jump now. On the part of the 10 years and that you're not the same Penson, there's a quote by Greek philosopher Heraclitus. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. It means that a person can never experience the exact same moment or situation twice because both the person and the river or the situation are constantly changing. Sure, Debs.
And that is the issue with current relationships. That
Did I not throw you off your point?
no, doesn't matter. But that's the issue with current relationships. The idea that you're just not the same. You see the person that when you leave here now, something would have triggered you here, and you're not the person that the colleague that they had yesterday.
The guy that drove in.
Hey,
I'm not the guy that drove in. Because there's education that I've learned here.
Yes.
Ulungelo was perfectly right by saying, Guti, there's therapy as brothers. Because leaving here, I've got another grain of sand in my life experience with my brother. So I've seen him different now. And that's and the relationship can either get closer or move further apart just based off this one conversation. He might say something, because here's the thing about life. What is a anthill to him might be a mountain to me. So he might say something tongue in cheek and jest that for me really affects me. And I sit on it for months, for years, for whatever, and it affects how I view him, or vice versa. So it's so crazy when we look at these things and we try to just plug in. And again, it's not that I disagree with you, I agree with you. But going back to that point of why didn't they teach us? For them, this might have been the smallest little anthill. It might be just a little hop over it. It's nothing. For you, it's your Mount Everest. And you're like, why did Idama not teach me about Mount Everest? But to him at age 30,
A friend of mine from high school 2 years ago came to me and told me that there's something I used to do to him. I used to do to him in high school that really hurt him. And I apologized because to what you're saying, I didn't think it was a big deal. He was a bit overweight in school. He had like manyana boobs. So I used to be like, hey, back it up. You know, what's called toxic masculinity, which we're learning now. And Kabanga, this is like 20 years later. He's like, that really used to hurt me.
Did he lose the weight?
I'm like, he lost the weight.
But the titties are still.
No, they gone.
They're gone. The titties are gone.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to say,
it's so
I
crazy.
know there's a huge debate in acknowledging whether you've hurt someone. Because sometimes you'll be like, I'm really sorry. It's like, no, but do you mean it? And you're like, I don't have to mean it. I'm just acknowledging what I said because maybe because of me, you lost weight and I've saved your life. But you have to acknowledge the person's pain.
It's so
and
crazy.
Some people are like, I'm not going to apologize.
So I actually wrote down bullying at school. Banter gone too far, shaped us. And I wrote this earlier before this conversation.
The universe.
The universe. Because I had a similar conversation with a friend of mine who's like, every time he's on the phone call with his niece, he talks about bullying and what, and he feels like he was bullied at school.
Yeah.
But the way that Amachita, how we bully, is very different from how TV or current form. For us, it's chirping and banter, but it feels like it just goes just a little bit too far. Gangan. But when we are easy, one thing is sure. But the moment you bring it up, I then say, sensitive. So it gives us that can't shape.
Sensitive.
And then samgenel. Yabona?
We all laugh. We all
Yeah.
laugh.
As a unit.
And then
Yeah.
emoreni wena umngenela mase samhleka. And then the same thing. And that bullying really does affect people. And you end up either embracing with okay, kushuthi mimi ke lo or nokumchamo okay, sharp whatever. And then you become that loser. Or you might lose weight, or you might just, and it does shape you in some form. It will shape you. Either it will make you competitive where you become successful, or it makes you a loser, but it will shape you. And you hold on to those things. And I was saying to Mguti, like it's such a catch-22 because do you wish that it never happened where the person was playing with your titties? And that playing with your titties might have sparked you losing weight.
And made him stronger in life. To be
And
like,
made
I
him
will
stronger.
not let another person do this to me ever again.
Or maybe that really broke this person's self-image. Even now, when they lost weight, they still see themselves as fat.
Yeah.
And they become anorexic and they just have a very low self-esteem because of that. So it's we don't know.
You know what I've realized, man? Especially when you raise a kid, at the end of it, the kid almost determines if you need to buy
Yeah, I was
oil.
going to say, Guti, please look at the time.
I was saying the beauty about life is that because it's life, we need to exist in it and things happen. How it happens, we can discuss it. But the beauty about having a kid and raising a kid is the fact that ultimately they almost then decide if you're a good parent or not. Because you would have put in everything, Jayam. The best schools, the best everything. But ultimately at the end, they decide if you're good or not.
Because even if society says they're phenomenal and you did a phenomenal job,
Jayam.
they can look back, going back to Michael Jackson and saying, this was a bad father.
Yep.
And there's nothing you can do. But look how successful you are and you're this and you're that. And you're like, you don't know the scars that I have.
Look at
You don't know the
Tiger Woods,
scars.
how he blames his dad.
You don't know
He
the
also blames his
scars.
father.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
You don't know the scars that I'm carrying.
Even some of his friends are like, his dad was a piece of fuck. But he's the biggest thing. It's almost like
Because
the kids can isolate. They almost have the ability to isolate the gift you've given me, but they don't realize that gift had to come with me being
Came at a
this
cost.
stud. It came at a serious cost so that you can become this great thing. But they've got the ability to almost think that, I would have still come this thing if you didn't treat me this way.
But sometimes it's this gift is also a curse. You've given me a superpower, but it's now there's the dark side of it that you don't get to experience.
Look at my WhatsApp status. It's exactly that.
You Daima wanted the gift. I'm going to say there's two sides to a coin, and it comes at a cost.
Oh, man.
But you don't get to feel the cost. I get to. And you don't know how, because you see the beauty of this. Kanti, the cost is triple the beauty of it. Mbona lokhu, great gift. And you don't see upsatane behind it. So it's...
Let me read the status because sometimes the tables are manga. The conversation I had, this was posted this morning. The conversation I had yesterday made me fully realize that Tribal Media House is a gift and a curse. The obsession I have for Tribal Media House makes it a curse because I neglect a lot of personal feelings and obligations. It's a gift because it empowers a lot of households and individuals via employment and opportunities. Hard reality.
Yeah.
Again, the universe. You guys wrote notes for this podcast before we even knew it. Khumutz, I don't know if you have any closing words. Nothing. Sis, nothing you want us to raise?
Not necessarily. It was interesting to listen.
Interesting to listen to.
You know what I do think we need to do at some point, interrogate why Debza is the anomaly that he is. Because I don't like the fact that we just stop at the anomaly part, or hey man, you made it out of school or out of this environment. Because there has to be steps that he can probably break down. Or I mean, one of the things is definitely he saw people running businesses.
Yeah. His dad and his uncle. He speaks about it a lot.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we do need to, at some point, like really try to break down, or yo man, how does a nigga like you move from where he is to, or where he was to where he is right now?
Very
I think it's
important.
because a lot of kids are like that.
My parting shot is I sat with my two kids and just on the therapy and the solutions to our children. And I asked them to give one piece of advice. My daughter said, children mustn't spend too much time on social media. They must play outside. And she referenced brain rot. She's like, there's a lot of garbage that we consume. So to kids out there and to their parents, because I said speak to kids and their parents, limit some of the social media intake that your kids have. My son said, I would like parents to listen more. And maybe this is also a jab at baby mamas, it has to come from me. Sometimes the children want their father to listen. but you've made it such that he can't because he's not there. Sometimes the children like, I just want to study my dad. I want to see him. But you've denied me that. Never mind speaking, never mind him providing. There's just a lot of questions that would have been answered in my head because I'm in a space where there are traits that I exhibit that you can't explain. But maybe if I just got to see this guy, you don't know why I'm super fast. You don't know why I'm a fucking genius. You don't know why I can break other kids' jaws. When to you, I'm just a fucking freak. Then when I go into the village of pandas, Kung Fu Panda there.
In the village of
Like,
pandas.
all of you guys roll down and you all eat fucking down. You're like, hey.
Hey, I belong here.
No, man. These are my people. Say, I'm
I'm home.
no,
home.
I'm not a freak. And you're depriving me that part of my life because part of being a freak is them being like, hey, we know we eat a lot here as pandas. And, you know, we all die of diabetes and high cholesterol. Dwana, please try and do better. And you're like, oh, shit. I would not have gotten this if I didn't visit the village of pandas. Yeah. Tobias.
Yo.
It's for you to close.
Oh, wow. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much just for being here. Like, I really missed the space. Side note, if you've got older siblings, listen to your older siblings. He told me to stop smoking and I stopped. I think that's important because someone was asking me why the relationship with my brother is how it looks. He's still my older brother. So I'm a cheater. Forget that. You know, interrogate, unpack, process, you know, whether we are trying to understand and learn from Debza's journey or our own personal journeys or your parents' journeys. Guys, don't take things at face value. Even if someone says, respect your older brother, unpack that, process that. Does it apply in your life? You know, we quick to jump onto the comments and disagree and what. Try and, okay, so what is Penson trying to say about that comment? What is Khwezi trying to say? What is Yabona? Don't take things at face value. Don't just listen to us on these podcasts thinking, well, they have the answers. We don't. We really, really don't. So I truly appreciate this because I get to think and process and get challenged, you know, because I'm sitting here with my own views and I get challenged. So I'll go back into my little echo chamber and, you know, or ego chamber and actually try to process and unpack and be humble and learn, you know, every single last point that was actually spoken about on this episode.
Hey, Tada, we're out.
Sure.
Go.